Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be looking at Pentatonix's Hallelujah. For those of you who are new to my reactions of Pentatonix, one of the things that I look for is teamwork. So you're not going to listen to me too much talk about how the individual singers sing their particular parts. I'm much more interested in how the rest of the group sets the stage for everybody else, and how the vocal structure of their parts help build each of the sections. So if you're wondering why I'm not commenting on Kirsten's voice, or I'm not commenting on Scott's voice, or I'm not commenting on all of that as an individual, I don't spend a lot of time talking about them, because as a group they're amazing, so individually they're amazing. And so the lyrics are awesome. This is a classic song, so I'm looking at how they work together as a unit. And with that, I'm going to get started.
I've heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. But you don't really care for music, do you? Well, it goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major lift, the baffled king composing hallelujah.
So one thing I'm going to talk about in this video, and something that I want you guys to listen for, is in this early part here. One of the great things about this group is that they understand music history and they understand musical styles very, very well. And so the one thing that I really love about this is they start off a song of Hallelujah with a very hymnal, very Gregorian sort of sound. I use Gregorian in a very loose sense. So if you're a musical historian, you can take me to task for that, but this is a very traditional church-based sound. And in this particular song, this is how they set the stage for this song, and to set the mood for the concept of Hallelujah as as a metaphor for the song, as well as the title. So let's continue.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Well, your faith was strong, but you needed proof. You saw her bathing on the roof, her beauty in the moonlight overthrew you. She tied you to the kitchen chair, she broke your throne and she cut your hair.
I'm going to stop here. Just what I just said before about the Gregorian part, right? Now we have what I would call a doo-wop sound, right? That the chords that they build there are actually based off of sort of a 1950s and 60s doo-wop. That's the sound I'm getting. And so that's put against this, that's juxtaposed against the other stuff that you hear, that Gregorian sound. And it sort of complements, and it reinforces the original time frame in which the song was actually produced.
And from your lips she drew the hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Floor. I used to live alone.
So I'll move it back a couple of seconds in a moment. But one of the things I always look for in their performances is how they build a section. Now, if you notice in the video, they use a lot of black. They fade to black at a lot of points. They create a lot of chapters in this, like visual chapters, and those visual chapters help set up different sections of the song that end up building, right? So in this section here, this was a totally different build up than it was at the beginning with Scott. Scott, there was a soft beginning and the chords were really soft and they move forward that way. Hers was a much more open, rounded, and much more full accompaniment by everybody else. And so this was to me an interesting section because it complemented her voice. People were singing what they were. If you notice, there were counter melodies. Scott actually echoed what she sang in this section, and again, this is what makes Pentatonix better than a lot of other a cappella groups, because other a cappella groups would just go ah oh, and then that would be it. Um, but they use their individual parts to support the main part, the main singer's part, the lead singer's part. And so this is the thing that always brings us back to their greatness, is their ability to work individually within a team to build the whole. So in a lot of ways, the sum is greater than, or the parts, and yeah, that whole Gestalt thing. The yes, I used to remember that. But with that, I'm going to go back a little bit and I'm going to have you listen to that again and listen for those, how they work together. The sum is greater than the yeah, never mind, whole is greater than the sum of their parts. That whole thing. So I'm going to keep going here. We'll start here.
Hallelujah. Oh, baby, I've been here before. I've seen this room and I've walked this floor. I used to live alone before I knew you. And I've seen your flag on the marble arch. And love is not a victory march. It's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
And now they're back to the Gregorian traditional hymnal sound as they move into the transition to the next part.
Maybe there's a God above, but all I've ever learned from love was how to shoot somebody who outdrew you. And it's not a cry that you hear tonight. It's not somebody who's seen the light. It's a chord and it's a broken hallelujah. Hallelujah.
So I think I mentioned this in another reaction. Yeah, I think it was Sound of Silence. Notice that the build-up for Mitch was totally different from the build-up for Kirsten. When he came in, it had a totally different feel. When his section built, it had a totally different feel. Now he's a higher tenor, and so his voice is going to be thinner, even though it's stronger. I mean, he has a strong voice, but the timbre of his voice is thinner, so they can't all come in rushing in at him because they'll overtake the timbre of his voice. So they had to build it really softly. And so this is different from Kirsten's voice because Kirsten's voice is in a different register, in a different range, and so um, it it has a different focus to it altogether. So as they were building that, it built differently, and that variety and that understanding of the different tone qualities within the band, within the group, is just amazing. And so we'll go back and we'll look at that again. because it's really important to watch how they do this because it's just amazing stuff. Additionally, and just at this particular point, you'll notice that there was this big rush and then silence. That silence is really just awesome because it creates that climax and then this just floating moment, this moment of floating, and it's just an amazing tool that they use to arrange this.
Maybe there's a God above, but all I've ever learned from love was how to shoot somebody who outdrew you. And it's not a cry
Nice
that you
dissonance.
hear at night. It's not somebody who's seen the light. It's a chord and it's a broken hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
The part in this section that I really appreciate, and I'm stopping partially because YouTube has been doing some interesting things with videos, and so I'm trying to stop as consistently as possible to try to keep this from being blocked. I can't guarantee anything, but I'm going to do my best. Um, Here now, when we move out of Mitch's part and they do the transition, and then they move into this section, notice that this is sort of a jam session. That's the only word I can come up with. It is that even though it's a very controlled section, it's actually it actually is a jam session. People are doing their parts to support the whole. But if you notice Scott is not cutting off at the same time as everybody else. He's a lead, and you'll find that there is a interdependency and also a freedom within this section. It's sort of a it's a jam session that's moving the song towards its end. And so I'm going to back up a little bit and we'll start that jam session one more time. And listen to Scott as he sort of takes control and takes the lead in this particular section in building this section towards the close. And then they head back to the Gregorian hymnal sort of section. I call it Gregorian because, well, I it sounds very like it needs to be in an abbey or in a an old school cathedral somewhere. And so we'll play that again so that you can hear that shift, that whole bringing it back to that very traditional hymnal section. So that was, to me, an amazing performance. I always find listening to Pentatonix sort of it actually gets me emotional more than listening to other people. And if you look at my catalog, I have some pretty emotional people on there. And for some reason, listening to this brings more emotion to me than a lot of things. Like right there at the end, I always get emotional at the end of that, and I don't know why. I can't figure it out, but that's okay. I don't have to. But I've given you my commentary. I've broken this down um, because again, they do things on a very conscious level to bring out emotion in people. And so, if you watch my Dimash videos, you'll hear me talk about him as a vocal rhetorician, meaning that he uses the tools in his tool belt to help create the message that he needs to give to the audience and bring the audience into the message that he wants. And so he's never inappropriate in doing so. He's always using his tool belt appropriately, and that's what makes his messages so powerful across the board. And the same thing with Pentatonix, the way that they design their harmonies and the way that they arrange their songs and the way that they use their leads, the placing the people in the right spots at the right time is the thing that to me is amazing. Because again, in some songs Mitch comes second, in some songs it comes first. Well, he never comes. He doesn't. Well, I don't know. I haven't seen all of Pentatonix, but you know, it's where you place everybody within the song that will help build the momentum of the song, and they're very deliberate about how they do this, and I can hear that even if I don't know it for sure. I can actually hear that. And so, with that, I'm going to be quiet and I'm going to give this over to you guys. So, in the comments, please leave timestamps and then talk about places in here that just really make your experience grand in terms of their performance. And talk about these different components because I'm listening to this with 30 years worth of experience of listening to stuff and other things like that. Am I a music theorist? No. But did I spend a lot of time listening to people who did study music theory a lot? Yeah, I did. And so with that, I picked up on a lot of things, but that doesn't mean that I'm an expert at it. And so I don't want anybody thinking that I am. But the stuff that I pick up on is just amazing because the way that they use dissonance to create intensity and the way that they use like Gregorian and traditional hymnals versus the doo-wop sound in here is just to me a great juxtaposition, and also it's a great homage to the song itself. With that, I have to be quiet because again, I said I was turning it over to you guys. So please leave your comments. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe and do all the things that everybody else tells you to do. And I do hope that you enjoy your day. And as always, be safe.